Hi, everybody. I couldn't think of a better theme song for our theory lessons. So I found that. Hello, I hope you're well this week. I hope you're okay. You're all very quiet in the group, so I assume that you have better things to do than to chat about theory. But here we are, another week, and I'm very excited and happy to be with all of you and to talk a little bit about transposition. For those of you who don't yet know, it's on page 8 to 10 of your course, so get that out and make sure that that's your work that you finish this week. Transposition, what does it mean? I thought we could use our theme song to illustrate. There it is right there. I'll play it for you as it's written. What if I wanted to sing that, but I realized it was a little bit too high for me to sing, and I wanted to take it down, maybe an octave lower, and see if I could sing it? That would be more comfortable, right, than singing it up here. So what I've done is I've transposed that melody as you see it, printed as it is, down one octave, and it suddenly made it easier for me to sing. What if I wanted to play that melody on a cello, for example, though? Maybe I'd have to go down another octave. What about down here? What if I wanted to play it on a tuba or a double bass? Maybe I'd have to write it down here. See, so what I've done is I've taken the melody as it's printed, as it's written, and I've played it in 4 different octaves, each one lower. I've been transposing down an octave each time. Obviously, I could have the music written down at the bottom for a tuba and say, but I really want to play it for my flute, so I've got to take it up an octave, or 2 octaves, or 3 octaves. Transposition just means taking the melody as it is and then shifting it either up a few gears or down a few gears. In our case, we're going to be dealing with octaves only, which is pretty cool because if I started on a B, then I'd start on a B in the new octave. The example in the book shows us how transposition works at the octave. This is in the bass clef, and this is the C below middle C. And this is in the treble clef. This is middle C, so it's an octave higher. And those two sound like this. But when I write it an octave up, it sounds like this. And it looks like this, which is what your tasks really are, is writing down the transposition of different melodies. Hope that makes sense so far. Later on, when we learn more about transposition, you'll be learning about transposition that isn't at the octave. For example, transposition up a tone from the one we had. What if I went up just 1 step? 2 steps? See, the tune is exactly the same, but all the notes have been shifted up together, either 1 step, 2 steps, or 3 steps higher, for example. In our case, for now, good news. We only have to deal with 8 steps, which means if I start on an A, I start the transposition on an A as well. Pretty neat. Okay, so let's look at your exercise here that says transpose the following down an octave using the bass clef. So of course the trick is to remember that you're changing clefs, and that might be a little bit tricky for you at first, especially if your bass clef reading isn't that amazing. Please watch when you write the key signatures that you don't write them in the exact same place as the treble clef. You must make sure that it's adapted for the bass clef. So it's F is not that line, but F is the second line from the top. Well, I've got my key signature in place, and there's my time signature. Simplest thing, same thing that went for your ledger line work last week. If I can just make sure the first note is right. Everything else should then just look exactly the same distances away. So what do? I do the same thing I did last time, really. I draw in my middle C and I say, what is this note and how does it relate to middle C? And I realize that this is 2 notes below middle C. So there's my C line, there's my B in between, and this note that is the first note is an A. I know that this is A just below middle C. So I write that down for myself, A just below middle C. Now, in our previous examples for last week, we would then have to write that very same A below middle C. But now we are being asked to transpose down. So I don't need that exact A. I need an A that's even lower than that. So what I'm going to do for myself with my pencil is I'm going to do, that's the A that's printed there. That's the A just below middle C. And now I'm going to try and go down 8 notes from that A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom, I found my new note. And it's this A. And now that note is transposed down an octave. I'll play the first one. And now I'll play the bass note one that I've just written. Ho-ho, I've done an octave. If I get the first note right, everything else will just be the same thing, but flowing along from that first note. I'll go 4 notes up for the next note, like that. And then I'll go 1 note up from there, 1 note up from there. All I'll have to do, 2 notes down, notice the gap there. All I have to do is follow note by note. That's 1 step up, and I therefore make that 1 step up, etc. Couldn't be easier. I hope you can see how this is a little bit different from last week. Last week we wrote the precise same pitch, but in a different clef. This week we are making sure that we're transposing the note first, down an octave or up an octave. Okay, here's a little trick. Remember last week I said if I'm writing the exact same note in both clefs, if it's an A on a line, it will be an A on a line, even if we change clef. Now you see, because we're going down an octave, that line A becomes a space A. Because any octave is, for example, an A and an A, an octave apart will be a space and then a line. And if I start on a line note, then the octave above will be a space note. Kind of cool. So that's one way to check that you're on track. You'll have to do transposing down an octave, and then you will follow that with transposing up an octave, as you see there, going from the bass clef to the treble clef. You will use what you've just learned to do exercise 1 and exercise 2, as well as exercise 3, which I just showed you, and exercise 4, where you go from the bass clef up an octave into the treble clef. If you have any questions, please post them in the Hangouts group, and either me or one of your friends in the class will send you some help. I will send a link, or not a link, but I will make an assignment in the classroom, and everything will carry on as normal. It's a bit more work this week for you, but if you've done it already, whoop-de-doo, good for you. Hope you have a lovely, lovely, magical week.